If you want to know more about one of your favorite films or TV shows, then taking a quick peek behind the scenes or digging around to find an untold story can be both rewarding and telling. There's always some kind of explanation for virtually everything. No secret doesn't have a backstory or some hidden anecdote buried away. Like, were there really 2 slave Leias in Star Wars? What was the deal with that sexy car wash scene in Cool Hand Luke? And more. If you take the time to dig a bit deeper, you might discover an obscure factoid or story that makes you enjoy a show or movie more than ever. And to save you some time, your good friends over here at Facts Verse have done a bit of digging. So sit back and relax, and allow us to blow your minds. Lynda Carter wore 6 different costumes as Wonder Woman. The costume Lynda Carter wore as Wonder Woman was nothing short of iconic. Who could forget those star-spangled mini shorts or that Golden Eagle bustier? Yet during that show's run between 1975 and 79, Carter actually wore several different outfits depending on whatever she was getting into at the time. For example, when the audience was first introduced to Carter in the TV film The New Original Wonder Woman, which was essentially the series' unofficial pilot, she was wearing a tight white mini dress and a Lone Ranger-esque domino mask. The first getup was the same athletic apparel that she and the other Amazonian women of Paradise Island wore for the contest that determined who took the lost pilot, Steve Trevor, back to civilization. When she set out on her journey into the world, Wonder Woman was given a red, white, and blue and gold outfit that was essentially the same costume she wore 90% of the time for the rest of the series. Although it should be noted that for the pilot, she wore a short skirt instead of hot pants. She was later given a Western outfit in an episode of the series called The Bushwhackers that consisted of a red top and white riding pants. In several other episodes, she wore a blue spandex bodysuit which doubled as a wetsuit or as a motocross outfit. In another one, she wore a blue skirt and red, white, and blue cape. Lastly, when Wonder Woman returned to Paradise Island, she wore a white one-piece swimsuit with a sheer skirt. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. And stick around to learn all about the wild sex life of Batman's Adam West. Jane Fonda was drunk when she filmed Barberella's steamy opening scene. The opening scene of the 1968 sci-fi farce Barberella did a good job of establishing the overall tone of the film. Jane Fonda floats about in zero gravity, virtually naked. The effect was achieved by having her writhe about on a pane of glass while a cameraman positioned right below her filmed. Fonda was already a sex symbol by this time, but this salacious scene pushed her to her limits. If you've seen the scene, you never actually see Jane Fonda inebriated. That's because the sequence turned out totally unusable. The studio had to call her back the following day, while she no doubt had an awful hangover, to film it again. The reason she got so smashed in the first place was she was feeling nervous about filming the sexy striptease sequence. Cool Hand Luke's car wash girl almost quit over marijuana. Cool Hand Luke predominantly took place in prison, as Luke, played by Paul Newman, struggled to fight against the powers that be who were trying to force him to conform to their standards. The movie pretty much features only men, except for one scene where the prisoners were out one day working on a chain gang. When they took a lunch break, a young woman began washing her car. Actress Joy Harmon's spirited scrubbing of her 1941 DeSoto, of course, drove the inmates wild. While the scene was overtly sexual, Harmon has always claimed she never really understood that part of it. She claimed she was just having a good time washing a car while getting soaked with sudsy water. But while Harmon didn't get the subtext, the film's producers certainly did. To help her loosen up for the scene, the film crew offered her some marijuana, but Harmon vehemently refused the offer and called her parents for advice. They told her to come home, which she planned on doing, but director Stuart Rosenberg showed up at her hotel room with flowers and apologized for offending her. There was a Playboy bunny on the Dirty Dozen set. Dolly Reed was fresh off her appearance in Playboy as Miss May 1966 when she stopped by the set of The Dirty Dozen for a few publicity shots. Born in the UK, she was one of just a few British playmates, and she was bunny as well, serving up libations and greeting guests at Playboy clubs in New York, Chicago, and London. She was perhaps most famous for starring in Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Reed is also remembered for marrying Dick Martin from Laugh-In in 1974 and 78. The Love Boat was filmed on real cruise ships, and the extras were actual passengers. If you've ever watched The Love Boat, you've probably noticed how the cruise ship looked convincingly like a real cruise vessel, bustling with passengers unrelated to the show's plot. The series pulled off this effect by actually shooting on a real-life seafaring cruise liner. With Meryl Steubing at its helm, the Love Boat was actually the Pacific Princess, which was a part of Princess Cruises' fleet of ships. While the majority of scenes were filmed on sound stages in Hollywood, there were some outdoor scenes that couldn't easily be pulled off in a studio environment. For such shots, the cast and crew embarked on real cruises on the Pacific Princess, and actual ticket-holding passengers were used as extras. Adam West of Batman had a prolific sex life. A news story published shortly after Adam West's death reported that back during his Batman days, he would sleep with as many as 8 women a night and regularly had quickies between scenes. He wasn't the only one getting down and dirty either. Women were just as eager and willing to sleep with Burt Ward, the actor who played Robin. According to stories, West and Ward often hooked up with these women while they were still wearing their iconic costumes. There were 2 slave Leias. Filmgoers hoping to catch an eyeful of sexy space ladies were probably pretty disappointed when they saw Star Wars: A New Hope for the first time. Sure, Leia, played by the late Carrie Fisher, was a great character and arguably gave one of the finest performances in that film, but she was just about the only woman in the first 3 films. As the years have gone by, Star Wars fans have demanded more and more bonus and behind-the-scenes material. And Carrie Fisher fans, of course, can't get enough of her in the costume known as Slave Leia. Can you imagine how delighted fans were when a picture featuring 2 slave Leias soaking up some sun side by side emerged? No, she hadn't been cloned by the Empire. That's Fisher's body double and bestie from the set, Tracy Eaton. Felix Silla played Cousin It on The Addams Family, as well as Twiki on Buck Rogers. Even if you don't recognize him, you are probably familiar with Felix Silla's body of work. He played Cousin It on The Addams Family, and a few years after that show wrapped, he played a young gorilla in Planet of the Apes. In 1978, he started playing Lucifer on Battlestar Galactica. Not long after that, he landed the role of Twiki on Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. And if you're a fan of especially bad sequels, you can check out Meatballs Part 2, where Silla played Meathead the Alien. Shirley Eaton was painted gold in Goldfinger and survived. There's an urban legend that actress Shirley Eaton was killed while filming the James Bond film Goldfinger. There was a prevalent belief at the time that somebody could die by skin asphyxiation. Essentially, if the skin's pores are clogged by paint, eventually it would deprive someone of oxygen and they'd die. While the gold paint she wore was difficult to remove, it didn't result in her death. She continued to act for many years later. Mary Tyler Moore was Elvis's leading woman in his last film. In Change of Habit, the largely forgettable final film from Elvis Presley, the King joined forces with a sitcom star who would arguably become the biggest star out of all of his leading ladies. Mary Tyler Moore was still playing Laura Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke Show when the film hit theaters in 1969. Her fame exploded the following year when The Mary Tyler Moore Show debuted to immediate success. The Incredible Hulk's wig was made out of yak hair. Lou Ferrigno, the bodybuilder who played the mean green monster superhero that Bill Bixby's David Banner turned into every time he got angry, had to sit through hours of makeup and prosthetic application every day. Achieving the Hulk's face called for a ton of grease paint that was thickly coated on to make his skin tone the appropriate shade of green. The grease paint was messy. It would come off on everyone's clothes, and whenever they had to film a scene in a hot environment, it would separate into blue and yellow splotches, forcing the makeup crew to have to continually reapply it. The Hulk's hairpiece, however, never gave him too many problems. It was made of yak hair, which behaves somewhat like real human hair. Now it's time to hear from you. Who do you think would come out victorious in a battle between the Incredible Hulk and Wonder Woman? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.